a bit of fine art coming on, isn't there?
Fine art, how did you know?
Yeah. Oh.
Vincent van Gogh. I like Gogh. I know. Here's what we all know about him.
Starry, starry night.
Yes, Don McLean wrote that song about him. He painted this, did Vincent? That's his bedroom, that is.
Yes, and this, the mulberry tree, that is.
And we also know the poor man ended his life with half the normal number of ears. Tragic business.
Yes. But what we didn't know is that he lived and worked for a time in a not especially prepossessing part of South London.
In a moment, we'll join our arts man, Phil Tufnell, for a preview of an eagerly awaited exhibition at the Royal Academy.
But first, here's Phil on what Van got up to in his time here in the UK.
Van Gogh's time spent living in France and the Netherlands is well documented, but less well known is the brief but influential period he spent between 1873 and 1876 living in the UK. In May 1873, Vincent van Gogh, aged 20 and having never ever picked up a paintbrush, moved here to Brixton, South London. A prolific letter writer, much of his life is documented through his letters to his brother Theo. And it was here at 87 Hackford Road that Van Gogh wrote to Theo advising of his new exciting life in Britain. "Oh, how I'd like to have you here, old chap, to see my new lodgings," he wrote. And did he enjoy his stay in South London?
He later told his family that it was the happiest year of his life. He loved Dickens and he very much enjoyed reading George Eliot and Shakespeare.
And tell us about the significance of this house here in Brixton.
Vincent stayed here and fell in love with the landlady's daughter, Eugenie, who was 19. He appears to have been infatuated with her, although the feeling was not reciprocated, and that made him very depressed.
With his personal life in turmoil, his professional career didn't fare much better, and he was fired as an art dealer for his inability to communicate with people. 3 months later, Van Gogh tried his hand at teaching at a school in Ramsgate, Kent. He lodged around the corner at 11 Spencer Square, in a house which today is owned by Philippa Lowe.
Philippa. Hello, Phil.
Hi. Hi. But when she moved in, she was totally unaware of its historical significance.
It was known that Vincent taught at the school at 6 Royal Road, but no one knew where he actually lived. All that it said in the letters was, I live in a house also owned by Mr Stokes, the schoolmaster, across the square. So it was somewhere in Spencer Square, but no one knew which number.
A trip to the local records office revealed that Van Gogh's schoolmaster, Mr Stokes, was paying rates on 2 properties.
He paid the rates on 6 Royal Road and 11 Spencer Square.
And I understand you know exactly where he stayed in this house.
Yes, a little bit more research into the letters, and I know which is his bedroom. This is the room that I'm pretty sure that Van Gogh actually lived in. He says, I have a small room at the top of the house. Well, this is at the top of the house. And he describes the view from his window. And he says, from my window, I look out over the rooftops of the houses. And there you can see the rooftops of the houses and a little bit of the sea beyond.
So Vincent van Gogh would have perhaps sat at his desk here, having a look out the window at some
He
stage.
was, and thinking of his family many, many miles away in Holland.
Fantastic. Despite living in England for nearly 3 years, there are only 4 known examples of Van Gogh's sketches. The first 2 sketches show the view from the schoolroom he taught in at 6 Royal Road. Van Gogh posted these sketches to his brother Theo, explaining, I should like to give you a peep through the school window.
He actually stayed here between April and June in 1876. And then Mr Stokes moved the school here to Isleworth. And Vincent, would you believe, he walked to Isleworth, which is a distance of at least 80 or 90 miles.
Now living in West London, Vincent worked as a teacher and also as a volunteer at the Turnham Green Congregation Church. And it's here he drew his 3rd sketch on a letter to Theo. His 4th and final sketch is of Austin Friars Church, which he drew whilst on a day trip to the City of London in November 1876. On the 20th of December 1876, at the age of 23, Vincent van Gogh left Britain and returned home to Holland to visit his parents over Christmas. He was never to return to England. By 1880, having been dismissed as an art dealer, rejected by Eugenie and a failed missionary, Vincent van Gogh enrolled at the Art Academy in Brussels and went on to produce some of the greatest masterpieces of all time.
We can go live now to Phil at the first major Van Gogh exhibition in Britain in over 40 years. Phil.
Yeah, now, traditionally, the Royal Academy don't only let their patrons in for a little sneaky preview before an up-and-coming exhibition, but bit of an exclusive, they've let me in. How about that? And I'm here with the curator, Anne Dumas, and it's amazing that Vincent van Gogh only first picked up a paintbrush when he was 27.
That's true, yes, and his career only lasted 10 years because, as you know, he killed himself at the age of 37. But during that 10 years, he was astonishingly productive. He painted over 800 pictures and made more than 1,200 drawings.
And the exhibition is about his letters as well. And
yes.
What was the relevance between the letters and the paintings?
Well, Van Gogh was a great writer, and not so many people know that. He once said that it's as interesting and as difficult to say something in words as it is in paint. And we're looking here at a letter he wrote to his brother, Theo, in which he described and did a little sketch of this stunningly beautiful painting of cypress trees.
And, I mean, you really get the feeling that it's sort of, there's a big gale blowing, don't you, there? And it's a lot of energy going on in there.
Absolutely. It's absolutely filled with energy. And Van Gogh developed this wonderful, bold, swirling brushstroke, which really captures the surge of the life force in nature.
And there's a little pen and ink one he did here as well.
Yes, this is a beautiful drawing, but we don't have the colour, but we do have the same energy.
Yeah, and this is the one of the mental asylum, isn't it?
Yes, he spent about a year in a mental asylum in Saint-Rémy-de-Provence toward the end of his life. A lot of the time he wasn't actually allowed out, and so he concentrated on the hospital garden and produced this magnificent painting of these great soaring pine trees. And he wrote about this painting in a letter to Theo, saying that he had to exaggerate and simplify colours and shapes to make the expression in his painting more powerful.
And we're surrounded here by these, well, priceless pieces of art, but during his life, he never actually managed to sell too many, did he?
He hardly sold anything in his lifetime, and that is part of the tragedy of Van Gogh's story. However, he did once say that the thing that he cared most about was that his paintings would really communicate his feelings. And I think that if he were able to see this exhibition, he would realise that he succeeded brilliantly in doing that.
Well, thanks very much for letting us have a little sneaky peek at them.
Thank you.
Pleasure.